The challenges that I experienced in making Solace, Wisdom of the Dying primarily had to do with the fact that I was working as a hospice nurse, their nurse case manager, and also trying to make this film. And so I was very careful about wanting them to have a good experience and wanting to check in about my boundaries and making sure that my agenda was not getting in the way of their experience. I think we're hungry in our culture to come together in community to talk about the things that matter most. And dying is something that is inherently human, that we can't avoid, that we all go through, that everyone we know and love will go through. And so I think when we can provide a safe container for people to get together and talk about dying in a way that is friendly, I think it's really refreshing for people. We don't often have ways to do that in our day-to-day. Usually when we think of dying, we think of the horror, we think of how it's portrayed in the media, and people don't like talking about it. So most people carry incredible stories about living and dying, only they don't have a normal daily context for sharing those things. So when we talk about dying and we can embrace dying, there's a great deal of intimacy. I would say that the intimacy around dying has been the greatest gift for me. I really felt that after being with dying people, they had so much to share with us about living and about sacredness, and that there is this time when we know we're at the end of our lives, when everything comes into a fairly clear focus. And I thought, this is something that really needs to be shared with mainstream people. And they seem to me to hold a great deal of our wisdom. When we think about bringing death into mainstream, we don't have to look back too far in history to find a time when death was integrated in a way that it was present in our daily lives. It was not much more than 100 years ago that people were dying at home, and that people of all ages were exposed to people who were elderly, people who were ill, and people who were dying. I think about the baby boomers, who are the generation born between 1946 and 1964, the first time in human history when half of our population will be over the age of 50. This large aging population will help catalyze bringing the conversations into a greater awareness, and that they will approach their own aging and their own illness and their own dying differently. I think they're going to demand that things be different. So I think we're actually living at a very exciting time in history where both the solution and the problem are side by side. So I think we have the opportunity to come together in community, as we often do when things are challenging. People become closer with one another. They become more focused on the solution. They become more cooperative and less competitive. And so I'm hoping that's something that we experience not only in our own lives, but also within healthcare. So when we think about what each one of us can do to further the Solace message, I think about having a daily dying practice, as Barbara Dossi talks about in the movie, that we remember our own impermanence on a daily basis, that we remember that this is, being in this body is a temporary experience, and that it's precious and sometimes it's difficult, but to embrace change and to try and remain flexible about life. Each person really has an innate wisdom inside of them that will lead them onto the right path that is appropriate for them in their living and in their dying. And there are great things that we can do to support them on that journey, and some of which have to do with pain and symptom management. But on the human level, which is mostly what the dying process is about, we really just need to get out of the way. It's really easy to have our ideas of what a good death is, or what a bad death is, or what we think of as a healthy family. And I think it's very important that we practice humility. So when we can show up and we can have a sense of humor, when we can be compassionate, when we can be sensitive enough to just be quiet, to listen, to have a friendly, healing presence. Oftentimes, that is an incredible gift for people that are dying. Over time, one of the practices that's been really helpful for me has been to think of having an open heart and keeping my heart soft and allowing myself to feel sadness, allowing myself to feel the emotions rather than blocking them, and also to stay present in my mind with the knowledge that I'm also here to serve them professionally and that I'm not here to satisfy my own needs for relationship. That's an important thing that I think people who stay in hospice and really become refined in the art of being with dying people understand, that we show up and we're present and we can have a great deal of intimacy with people, and then they go. And I think after a while, it's almost like music. There's a rhythm to it. People come in and out of your life, and you become more skilled at being able to have your heart open and care about people and also let them go. I think in Western culture we have such a tendency to cling and to want to hold on to things. And hospice is a great opportunity for us to practice sort of moving with those tides, the in tide and the out tide of being able to feel close and also to be able to let go of people that we care about and keep our hearts open for the next person we're there to serve.